USA Today baseball reporter Bob Nightengale as he joins us here on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. And, Bob, we have seen a variety of possibilities between Arizona, the Grapefruit League, Cactus League scenario that you pointed out, adding Texas into the mix. But it seems that those plans might be out the window and that maybe baseball says we're better off just waiting a little bit longer and playing at our home ballparks. Is that what is the most likely scenario at this point?
Yeah, absolutely. They want to play even the spring training games at their own ballpark. So, they kind of want to wait to do that, have a semblance of a normalcy. And even with no fans, at least they can be at their own ballparks. Fans can watch on TV and look at familiar sites.
At this point, you mentioned in your article at USA Today that mid-June or late June, I should say, and that July 2nd at the latest. I mean, if they don't get to July 2nd, it's something there's a pushback. That doesn't mean they're giving up hope on trying to get back, right? But they're just hoping that July 2nd is the latest that something gets started.
Yeah, that's what they're hoping for. Yeah, there's no drop date, dead date here. They could. I think even if you started in September, they would do that, but they're going to go as long as possible.
Right. If they started in September, that would be some sort of wonky, playoff format or something, not a full regular season where they just basically start over, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, maybe some crazy kind of tournament, a March Madness baseball style.
And in this scenario that you lay out, essentially they've been trying to, in all these scenarios, they've come up with all these different things. They had the Grapefruit League and the Cactus League. This one would essentially be 10-team divisions based on geographics, and you would just play those teams, and that would be it?
Yeah, that's where the scenario is now. It's just, to cut down the travel, have everybody, stay together. They want to have interleague play anyway. So it's almost like even if they keep the divisions, you're playing those teams in your region. So no matter what happens, the Yankees and Mets will still be playing against each other, that sort of thing, like expanded interleague play.
So the plan is about 100 games beginning somewhere in late June, maybe as late as July the 2nd. And these executives are saying they would hope to play in the home ballparks. What about fans? Has that been discussed at all? A minimal amount of fans at some point? Do we see fans at all during the course of the season? Or is that something that they are not even considering at this point?
Yeah. They're hopeful. They're hopeful of at some point you get 1,000 fans, 2,000, 5,000, but that's going to be all up to the state and government officials and see what happens. To start with, it looks like no fans, but they're certainly hopeful that by the end of September or October they can at least have a handful of fans in there. At least a 10%, 20% of the stadium being filled.
Huh. That's interesting. Obviously different states, as you kind of mentioned there, Bob, have different leniency at this point right now to see if that's even a possibility. How much of this, we had heard a couple of weeks ago that, hey, my team is not really a contender, and playing games with no fans, I'm actually going to lose more money by playing games than I would by playing games with no fans. So is there some split between the owners on how urgently they would like to get back, or do you think universally these teams want to play, fans or not, no matter how much money it costs them to put these games on? Because, you're not bringing any revenue in without fans. There's no beers and hot dogs and parking and jersey sales.
Well, the owners will tell you that they got 35, 40% loss of revenue without the fans, just relying on the TV money. So they're going to ask the players to take accept part of that, loss of revenue as well. So I'm sure they're going to have to take a 10, 15% pay cut, which, 10, 15% pay cut, has been having, staying at home is zero money. So I think the players will go along with that. And, and we will have games. It's just, they're hoping the national TV money will make up for things, local TV money, and of course, sponsorships and endorsements, which would help showing the home games on TV.
Bob Nightengale, USA Today, Major League Baseball writer. The thought that baseball could be back sometime soon, mid-June, late June, early July in a 3-division format here. And as we just kind of mentioned here, is your feeling that these executives want to get this season played no matter what. That you said there is no drop dead date, but that they want to do whatever they can to try to play this particular. That there's no talk of, hey, we just can't do it, because we have heard some whispers out minor league baseball not getting off the ground and how that would all factor in, not having those minor leagues. Here in Philly, you got Alec Baum and Spencer Howard. Like, what happens with players like that?
Yeah, I mean, they'd probably have, like a 29, 30-man roster. They're like maybe a 20-man taxi squad in that sense, where while the Phillies are playing, in the Citizens Bank Park, the minor leaguers, all of them, can still be in Clearwater, training and preparing and, at least developing. You don't want to stop their development. And they can play other teams in Florida, not the traditional minor league games, not those traditional minor league parks, but at least playing in the and getting ready if you do get called up.
Yeah. How much, is money going to be the driving force behind this, Bob, in terms of the whole scenario? The players making money, the owners making money. Is that the biggest thing that's driving all of this? Because does playing baseball games in late June sound to be aggressive for you?
It's aggressive, but I think the government officials, everybody is saying, hey, we want baseball. From everybody from the White House, the senators, the mayors, it's like, hey, we want some normalcy coming back. You guys do whatever you can to do it. So it's almost like following the government and health official lead.
Right. Yeah, that's and Dr. Fauci was on with Ryan Zimmerman, of all people, who got that interview. And, it sounds as if there, as you mentioned, 1,000 people, 2,000 people, that at some point you could have someone in the seat, then 4 seats over, you would have somebody else. I mean, that could be an interesting scenario. What about, you mentioned, I think I heard you mention somewhere about the possibility of, playing, playoff games into November, possibly. Would those be neutral site games? I mean, if the Yankees and the Phillies are in the World Series potentially, they're not talking about playing outdoor games in November-ish in that scenario, would they?
It just kind of depends on the weather. I think you got to keep it open. I mean, if the weather is nice in November, hey, a lot of times the weather is nice in November than April. Yeah, why not? Keep it that way. If there's no fans, maybe it makes more sense to be a neutral site. That way you limit travel and everything else. So I think they're wide open on that. Some places would be a little impossible. I can't see if the Minnesota Twins in the World Series, how they can play outdoors there.
All right, Bob Nightengale, USA Today. There's some updates and some hopeful optimism out there for people from Major League Baseball. Possible return, the latest right there from Bob, as he reported that there could be baseball coming possibly in the next month or so. At B Nightengale from USA Today to read his full piece. And he was kind enough to join us here on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. Thanks, Bob.
Sure, my pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Bob Nightengale, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. He had that report, which is maybe the most optimistic report that we have heard when it comes to baseball, is that, yes, they intend to play